But the immigration bill, and I don't know, you'd have a better sense of exactly where they are in terms of like the supplemental and if there's going to be an amended sort of border thing. But that whole fiasco, it seems to me, is an even worse disaster because it not only was an electoral failure, because you're basically saying there's only one guy who can fix this, and it's not me, it's Donald Trump, because he controls everybody, even though he's not president. You're basically saying that any issues you have with my leadership, he's the only real leader here, but he's just not willing to go along with it.
But he will later.
I mean, not, like Biden saying like nothing's going to change over the next year. And it's like, well, okay. Until Trump's here. Well, wait a second.
And if you reelect me, it won't change for 4 more years.
Exactly. I mean, the whole political subtext of that message was he's the real leader here, not me, which is absurd. And then the policy, you've now moved the Democratic Party further to the right on immigration proposals than I've seen in my lifetime, I think. I mean, the idea that, we're just going to, our big immigration reform is to constrain the amount of refugees that we're going to have in the country. It's just absurd. We're going to double the Border Patrol budget in a year. I mean, it's absurd.
And billions more for ICE, which might soon be run by Stephen Miller. It's like, yeah.
What are you hearing from anything in people in the Senate and the House as to like what's going on with this?
I mean, it's dead is, what's going on with it. And people who were against it are, of course, quite glad that it's dead and infuriated that it went this far, and also kind of sickened that people like Biden and Schumer and others see it as this victory. Like they really do think like they really played Republicans here. Like if they had it to do all over again, they would do it exactly again like this. That like, look, we were able to show that we are willing to solve this problem. We showed the Republicans to be, hypocrites and cynical. And, they did it. They had to do it in front of everybody, and they spent a week attacking each other. Aren't we strategic and tactical geniuses here? They would absolutely do it all over again.
While reinforcing the problem is the border. So I just want to reiterate this for people. The Republicans have nothing to run on in 2024. The guy that is going to lead the ticket has over 90 indictments or charges being brought against him. He is deeply polarizing and unpopular to the general public. They lost big on trans issues. No one gives a crap. They have not been able to, the fiscal policy, they've got nothing. So
Abortion is crushing them.
They have decided that immigration will be the center of the entire race. And what the Democrats think was a strategic win was saying they are totally right about what the biggest problem in the country is. And the only problem is just that they didn't go along with our plan to fix it. But they're right about the whole thing.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Okay.
That's and they would do it again. Yeah, they'd be like, yep, we got him. Look at us.
I mean, it's triangulation, really, in many respects, it feels like.
Yeah, sort of, yes, except triangulation sometimes has you, yes. Yeah, I mean, it basically is triangulation, yeah.
I mean, they didn't know. Listen, when they started this, they didn't know that this was going to be rejected. They did not anticipate. They did not, when the Biden administration started to put this on the table, they did not know that it was going to be rejected. Okay, because they didn't know that Trump was going to basically be able to break, Mitch McConnell in half over his knee, essentially, is what he did. Everybody was surprised. Tom Tillis came out like, I can't believe this. And so they were trying to triangulate. And then they thought they got this great bonus where they said we got to say that the border's in crisis, but we're not capable of fixing it because of the Republicans and because of Donald Trump. So, I mean, like there's only someone who, like an alien who came down would just be like, oh, well, I know how to fix this. Get the guy who's in charge of Congress to come in and be president, and then your crisis will be over. It's just insane to me.
Yeah, and I think you're right. They didn't know that it was going to go this way, although they could have. I just randomly happened to be on Democracy Now! Like the morning that it came out several months ago that they were going to try to do this thing of pairing an immigration deal with Ukraine. And I just, they asked me if it was going anywhere. I just flat out said no. Like, Republicans will not do anything because they'd rather have the crisis. So it was foreseeable, even months ago.
Of course. I mean, let's say you participated in a grand bargain. Let's just say hypothetically, that was to offer the Republicans something they have desired for years, which is a cut in Social Security benefits. And you went ahead and they didn't, accept it because they were too extreme. You would theoretically maybe have an outline of how it could go again. And it was Joe Biden who did that. I mean, people can read your not this past book, but the first book, right? On how that went down, and that didn't quite work out that well for the Democrats in the long run. It seems to me.
No, just a giant waste of time for everybody.
Giant waste of time, and here we are. All right, well, let's turn to before we get to Pakistan. The White House released a memo yesterday that basically reiterated what is known as the Leahy rule, I guess, which is that the White House is responsible for providing a memo or a report on how countries that receive U.S. weapons, if they're upholding international law, including ones that are involved in a conflict right now. So will you please characterize what that really means to the extent that it means anything?
The timing is interesting. The law is on the books. Like, Biden administration could enforce the law. That's why Josh Paul stepped down from the State Department, and has since been doing the rounds. I suspect you guys have had him on here at some point. If not, you should.
We've played his clips. Yeah.
So it was his job kind of to make sure that countries were following the Leahy law when it came to weapons distributions. And what he was told during this war, do not check anything, like just get the weapons out the door. And he's like, including to even all of these units that, are under suspicion of this, that, and the other thing. They said, yes, do it. And he said, no, I quit. I'm not doing that. So the law is already on the books. The timing of reminding everyone that this law is on the books is at least interesting, but they do put out these statements, somewhat annually or so. And it doesn't mean they're doing anything about it. Like yesterday, both John Kirby and Vedant Patel, NSC and State Department said that if Netanyahu, it went into Rafah, it would be a quote disaster. And that the State Department has asked, okay, what are you going to do? What are you guys going to do about that? Nothing.
Yeah.
So no, not going to do anything. So
literally an hour after they said that, the Israelis bombed Rafah.
Yeah, they're like, we're doing it. Everybody out, we're doing it. And it's like, out to where? What do you mean? It feels like they want to blow up the border fence and kind of spill people into Sinai. That's the only thing that can make any sense besides a wholesale massacre.
What when you say the timing's interesting, why?
Well, because they're under a lot of pressure to do something to try to get this out of control government under control. 4 months now of expressing concerns and having tough, frank conversations behind the scenes hasn't led to any material change in how Israel is conducting its war, and comes a day after Netanyahu rejected this hostages for a ceasefire deal. So the pressure is really building, because the argument that you keep hearing from Democratic operatives is, this people will forget about this. When it comes time to vote, that assumes at some point it's going to stop.
Right.
There's just this assumption that at some point it's going to stop. But then Netanyahu will say, no, this is going on many more months.
Wait, so let's now flesh this out too. So one, Netanyahu has actually the biggest disincentive to not stop because he will be ousted from office. So this is like top line basic foreign policy understanding that I assume the White House has to know that he is not incentivized to stop this war at the very least. Okay.
Right. At least pardon these corruption charges.
Right. So then take that a step further. If he has no incentive to stop the war, and Trump is on the ballot, the guy that's his buddy, right? And he feels fundamentally like supports the Israeli cause of ethnic cleansing and, whatever, and would be better than Biden even expressing concern because he's publicly humiliating Biden at every turn. Then why would Biden assume this would stop at all? Because there's a secondary incentive there, which is that this hurts Biden politically for the war to keep going on, and then you would get your guy, and then you see the numbers. It's been 4 months. 49% of Democrats believe it's a genocide. That description accepted in the YouGov Economist poll. That is a huge shift for the weight of that term to be accepted by the plurality to close to half of Democratic voters. Why is that not breaking through, and why can't they make the connection between Netanyahu's political future and him clinging on to it and their political futures being tied to it?
There just seems to be a sense that these wars have always stopped in the past. Okay, this is going on a little longer, but October 7th was, a much bigger attack than they're used to. So it's going to go on a little longer, but it will stop. So that's part of the assumption that the past will be like the future. And then also it's having a devastating effect on the Israeli economy. You're seeing an exodus of people from Israel. You're seeing, they not only do they not have millions of workers from the West Bank and Gaza that were coming in and supporting the economy, but hundreds and hundreds of thousands of reservists are called up and pulled out of the economy and fighting a war, and a war that has displaced Israelis from the south and from the north, in a country that already had a housing crunch. So part of the assumption is that what can't go on won't go on, and that this is kind of unsustainable long term. But I think your point is much stronger, that the one calling the shots here has every reason to keep it going and every reason to not stop, because not only is it damaging for him politically to stop, because then he gets probably ousted in a snap election, but he's facing those corruption charges.
And I'm sorry, but the people that are prone to commit genocide aren't rational. I mean, fascists in this way, they're more ideological. So I mean, it is rational, I think, for Netanyahu from his own future's perspective. But what's primary here is I want to kill these Palestinians.
The mood is hot. It's the post 9/11 mood is still hot there.